Yeah.
Shut up, dude. I got good posture. Looking like the letter C looking boy.
Do I really look like letter C?
Huh?
All right, here we are. We're back again, episode 4.
Episode 4.
And we were talking about freelancers, a.k.a. guns for hire, a.k.a.
contractors,
a.k.a. Go ahead.
AKA, yo, can you for reals this time submit your W-9? Like, we need it. We're not going to be able to pay you. This was from 6 months ago. It's a new tax year. Can you, like, Siri, do you want to get paid? AKA. Talking to you, Burnett.
Yeah, so in this episode, I think we wanted to basically jump in and talk about what a freelancer is, what we look for in freelancers, why it's important, how we vet freelancers.
Yeah, and just how they're important to Flagship's process, how we stay lean, why we bring in freelancers and when we do. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be getting into.
So if you're a freelancer, I think you're going to get a lot of good value out of this and, you know, how to become even more valuable to where you get hired more. And then I think if you're a brand or an agency owner, you'll get to learn our process on how we vet a lot of the people that we bring onto a project to ensure that we have a successful project with a good experience and we get the right outcomes from it.
Yeah. And maybe here's some stories of early on when we didn't have such a great vetting process.
Yeah, maybe when our process was a touch different.
Yeah.
So we had some things slip through the cracks.
Yeah. So, you know, sort of, again, it may sound silly, but sort of what we consider a freelancer or a contractor in our industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You were asking me that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would say anyone that is not on our payroll that will be a part of a project. That could be anyone from a producer in pre-production, a copywriter in pre-production, to people on set, a sound guy, a first AC, a DP, art director, hair and makeup. Shall I go on? I will.
Yeah.
Into post-production. Could be a colorist, could be a sound designer, it could be an editor even.
Yeah, I think the point is, you know, it's specialized. It's not typically not like a, you know, oh, this person wears a million hats, or, you know, it's certainly not a core person from a team perspective that's utilized, you know, in every part of the process. You know, and so I think it's important too to understand that there are different jobs that require different specialties, different roles, different size, you know, crews, even.
There's requirements for being a freelancer.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think, you know, even touching on, you know, we've been at it now for 8 years. And even prior to that, 8 years is Flagship, but, you know, sort of we always call it a Rolodex because we don't know what else to call it. I almost want a physical Rolodex of like to flip through the Rolodex.
Haskell, can we get a physical Rolodex?
We can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but our Rolodex of trusted vendors, trusted contractors, and freelancers.
Rolodex is basically your contacts.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
For those of you born after 1983.
Yes. Which I saw someone on Gen Z, a TikTok of someone trying to come up with a concept of a shared phone in a household. And they were basically describing a landline, and then there was reaction videos to it. So anyways, if you want to
that's so great.
check that out. We'll leave it in the show notes. No, we won't, because I don't know how to get to the video.
But it's out there.
It's out there in the wild. So yeah, what is our process?
Yeah, I mean, our process is one. I'd rather you touch on this actually. No, we definitely have like one. Before we bring anybody else new onto a project, obviously they're going to be vetted by other people that are familiar with that person. So that's probably start number one. Or it's a very calculated siloed risk where we know like, okay, like this is maybe a brand new person that's never been on set with us or been a part of a project before. We don't have anybody else that knows. If we do an out of town shoot, for instance, and we have to kind of source people locally there, well, we're not going to know a ton of people in that area, but we know that we're not going to hire just like a person that the project live or dies on this person performing how they need to perform. And so,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, I would say never. We never do
Mhm.
that, regardless,
Yeah.
across the board. And make sure that we're the ones that are taking on the risk. Like the client or the
Mhm.
brand is never the one taking on the risk. If that's the case, and again, because we have more established base, I think like what you said is important. We're not going to have an established base if we go to Idaho
Mhm.
or Cincinnati or
Mhm.
whatever. And so we always do try to still leverage industry contacts first and
Mhm.
say, hey, do you know anyone in here?
Right.
And I would say for the most part, 95% of the time, we can always connect them back to Kevin Bacon. No, we can always connect them back to someone we know, or someone who would trust them. And I think too, we're always looking at potential as well. Like we're not just looking at, like, of course we assume this of ourselves. We don't take on a job that we don't feel like we're skilled for, but what is the unique that we bring? And we talked about that, in episode 1 and episode 2. But same with, freelancers that we work with. Like we want them to, be someone that we enjoy working around.
Sure.
Beyond, if you're like a great director or a great DP or a great insert whatever role, but you're like an asshole, like people aren't going to want to work with you. And so we're very, very particular about like the vibe check of an individual and just even how they carry themselves. And that's way more important, I feel like, on set or any time that client would be interfacing with them. But still, like even with us, like we don't want to be working with someone who's not enjoyable to work with, no matter how good they are.
Right.
And so I think that that's extremely important, that you can go leaps and bounds beyond other peers in a particular role by just being an enjoyable person to be around. I know that's true for us too, as a production company. There's certainly companies that I would believe that could outclass us in skill set, but the overall experience and enjoyability, they're probably not going to match us on from that standpoint.
Which I think kind of brings up a good point. Like I think we've always had the mentality of like, we're not hiring like a vendor or someone who works for us. We always see them as partners and someone that can bring their own specialty to elevate whatever thing we're working on together. And so the same way that we would want to partner with an agency or partner with a brand and not just be hired as like, hey, you're basically our employee for this project. Like, we want to be a partner and be seen that way, where there's equal trust, equal respect, and the same thing for people that come in, whether it's a PA or a DP or a director that we bring in on a project. Like we see that as a partnership and we see that as a collaboration. And when that kind of working relationship is there, good things will come. Pfeffer. And that's where I think that people can then bring their expertise and their skill set and elevate the project even further than where we could have taken it on our own. And that just takes trust.
Yeah, for sure. I think you said it right. Like, I mean, we don't even really like use the word freelancer like internally. Like we would definitely see them as partners or collaborators. Are very grateful for the people within our bubble or sphere that we've built over the years, that they are trusted collaborators and even extensions of Flagship.
And that's one of the reasons why it is so important to have trusted partners being brought in. One, like we said a second ago, just like it can elevate the project and make it even better. But also, there's projects where, it might not seem, and this is where we always ask for trust with our clients, is like, hey, we know what we want to accomplish, and that's going to take, I'll make up an example, not just a single art director building the set, but we need 4 to make sure, because the set is the bulk of what this project needs, and so, and we'll need trust from our client to say like, okay, we approve that expense of 4 people building the set and working, or here, we need a bigger lighting, a bigger G&E crew, because we need to be able to move quickly, be able to break down stuff and be able to set up another scene while the other scene is getting broken down, so we can kind of move quicker. And so that requires more people to do so. And so that trust of, looking to us and knowing that they can lean on us and to basically be able to consult, this is the size crew, or like, we really don't need this. What we actually need is to spend money on this location. We need a smaller crew and a good location, or we need a larger crew on a set and it's a set build. And that's how we're going to accomplish that. And that's what, that's why I think freelancers, partners, and that trust between client and our partners that we're bringing in is so important. It again kind of just goes back to the common good and elevating something.
Yeah. So for someone who's even just getting started in the industry, either, they're just right now an enthusiast or really focused or want to break into the industry, or they're coming out of film school or, whatever it may be, have an interest. I feel like PAing is always like the, sort
production assistant.
Yeah. Production assistant is always, sort of like, all right, like, let me dip my toe in, let me get started. Like, what would you say to someone who is considering that, and, sort of, not just what we look for, but why they should be considering that. And, not maybe you want to be a DP, or, you see the 5-year goal, 10-year goal, whatever. But why it's so important to, start out as a PA.
Yeah, I think it's low risk.
Yeah.
Right at the gate, being a production assistant is low risk. Understand you're probably going to be going and, making runs to the coffee shop for people. You're going to be running out to go and buy something from Best Buy or Home Depot or something last minute, or you're going to be moving tables and chairs or helping out with, random tasks. That's what a production assistant is there for. Or, we need help keeping this crowd away from our set. So you guys are just going to stand here and just make sure no one comes into this area over here. It's a closed set. Like, okay. But at least it's a low risk position to get yourself in the environment of being able to get that experience and kind of see how stuff is done. You can see how the camera's set up. You can see why the lights are placed here, placed there, and so you can kind of get around. You can see how the director's, interacting with the DP, and the DP's interacting with his lighting crew, and how client and agency and so on and so forth, how everything kind of just works,
Yeah,
and so,
you also get to interact with all of the departments.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You get to spend time with people you might not necessarily when doing a...
Yeah.
If you're on camera, you're on camera. You're not going to be really hanging out with the wardrobe people.
Exactly.
But if you're a PA, you could be making a run for anyone.
Yeah. And as a production assistant, again, like, if you were there as a first AC, you're working and you are like, you got to be on it. You're pulling focus, you're making sure you're doing lens changes, etc. As a production assistant, like I said, low risk. You're able to be around everything, get involved. If you haven't gone to film school will give you a little bit of that experience, but still not like real world experience. At film school, it's like a simulated set, and you're like, okay, this is how it will work when so on and so forth, and so if you're not going to film school, which I would highly suggest not going, and you're going to go to YouTube University and just kind of learn it and kind of come up, through the streets, similar to our background, then like, you're going to need to get on set. And the easiest way to do that is as a production assistant. And, why don't you talk a little bit about like what we would kind of look for in a production assistant,
Yeah, well, I think I can sort of specify maybe some mistakes, because I think we highlighted like what we do look for as far as like can-do attitude, wants to be, is enjoyable to be around, understands sort of their role and their part to play. But I think some of the mistakes that I've seen made is, and certainly even on our set, like I like to make everybody feel included, make everybody, feel like they're a part of the process. Like a lot of like, within the industry, it's like you have like above the line crew, which is like, sort of the top head departments, and then below the line crew. And it's like, hey, below the line crew stays, in their communication bubble, above the line crew. And that's for a reason. It's not just like an ego thing. But
what would be some of those above the line spots, just so people
like
know?
A director of photography, a director, like just anyone. And then you obviously have your lower rungs of like support crew, for that. But I always make a point to talk to PAs and stuff when they're on set, and, make sure like, on break and things like that, like, oh, like, did you have a good time? Do you have any questions and so forth? And that is the time to be asking those questions. But I do think it's important that your job is not, like you mentioned, like you are going to be around experiencing those things, but the job isn't to be around experiencing those things. That's happening by proxy. That's happening because you're a fly on the wall. And so to just be absorbing that stuff in, understanding those still, like your job is, to do whatever is needed to make, production happen. If that's, running to go get coffee for whatever reason, and that's the reason, or like you said, running to Best Buy to, get a TV because client monitor went down or, batteries, whatever the case may be, whatever sort of needed, being a go-getter, being can do, happy to do it. But making sure that there's a self-awareness of, like you're not over the director's shoulder, while a scene is happening and asking questions or giving your input or, making sure that like you're conscious about who you're communicating with. You're not communicating to client unless asked, and again, it's not an ego thing, but it's, we have this process and a way that we do that and, need the experience to happen, the way that we like it to happen, but also need to be focused on the end product and understanding like that you are a fly on the wall, but this also isn't a simulation where you can just pause it and be like, hey, what's going on here? Or how many pixels are in that camera, which is always my favorite one. Like, I don't know, read the camera, go ask someone else on break. Like I'm directing right now,
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like the director, the DP have so many voices and so many things that they're working out. Got to find the right time if you are going to ask a question, like you said, like on break
or after, and again, I can think of some like, like I think of this like really like sweet PA that was on set on a shoot that we had in Richmond about a year ago. He didn't say anything to me the entire time, and he was great. And I noticed him like doing his thing even on a set.
I like you described him as sweet.
He's a sweet
Keep
soul.
going.
He's a sweet soul. But anyways, he pulled me aside after we had like our wrap, like talk. It was a 4-day shoot, and he pulled me aside. He was like, "Hey, Derek, just want to thank you for having me on set. I just didn't know if there was anything that you picked up on that like I could improve on." And again, there wasn't necessarily anything.
Well, you were like, you could be sweeter.
Yeah. Yeah. You passive aggressive sweetheart. But that's how I would describe him, man. He was just really like a sweet soul. And the point is that stuck out in my mind in such a good way that I was like, if there's ever a time in Richmond, like I'm bringing that guy back on. And if I can give him a shot, I'm like, can you do skill A, B, C?
Yeah.
Like I'll give you a shot because I know that you're going to perform in a thing that can't be taught really, which is like people skills, self-awareness.
And we did.
Being enjoyable.
We did bring it back on.
We did? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But not as to your point of like PA being the entry to other roles. He came back on camera. So
okay.
Awesome. He ended up being, I think, a first for BCam. Yeah.
Okay. And I want to make sure we're talking about the same person too.
Maybe we're not.
Okay.
A
lot of sweethearts.
A lot of sweet people. I want to make sure we're talking about the right sweetie.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to name names, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I wasn't on that shoot then?
No, you were. You were.
Yeah, he was.
Okay. Might have been a big set.
He was. Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
you weren't.
He was so sweet that second time that I didn't even notice him. And that's what you want to be, so unnoticeable that you're noticed is the takeaway.
We forget your name and just call you sweetie.
Yeah. But so I think about that guy, but then I think of, some other people who have made mistakes, like I had mentioned, again, and it's just more about timing. I love to answer questions. I love to interact with people who are hungry, but it's timing that and understanding like, all right, I'm going to be a fly on the wall. Like, another thing that I would add is like, be very cautious about the input that you give. So like you're not the director, you don't have the experience, you're not a DP, you don't have the experience. So if you're saying things like, I would maybe do this, or I would maybe do that, then, I would maybe not be having you on set next time. So
there's just a lot of other decisions. That may be a valid point to bring up, but there's also a lot of other things that factor into the reason why it's even being done a particular way, and so yes, we've seen that as well, with PAs, good intentions, wrong timing, in the middle of a shot that we're getting off, making comments. And then we've also had PAs come up to me while we're chasing light, we're losing light, and we only get, a couple takes of, this is like in Missouri, when we have a shoot out there, and, they're asking me about the, pixel count on the sensor. I'm like,
and dynamic range. And
I don't have the answers right now. We can talk after we wrap though, but just that timing and just kind of knowing, but etiquette, I guess that kind of leads us into some set etiquette stuff.
But the key, I think too, is like, we have a pretty, relaxed vibe on set.
Yeah.
So
you can misinterpret
it. Fool somebody into thinking that they can, or, say whatever they want, but you got to make sure whatever skills you're learning apply to the strictest set you've ever been on, or the funnest one. They have to be able to translate. That could get you kicked off a set.
Yeah. Which, sort of like, I guess, transitions into the best PA story of all, which is Haskell himself. Yeah. Oh, this is when he was a city boy from Northern Virginia.
Okay, now what do we have here?
So, but Haskell did reach out to me and was like, just like, I want to say several times we caught up. You reached out to me initially, and we caught up, and I didn't really know if I saw fit. Like, you were sort of like, like producer light-ish, maybe editor more so.
Essentially, it was like, I've been to film school.
Yeah.
I work quasi in the industry for multiple years, and I know nothing.
Yeah. And do you know what? One thing though I really respected about that?
Honesty.
And I mean that.
Yeah.
I mean that. You weren't like,
he was like, I didn't used to be a piece. Like, I am.
Yeah. So
call this slick back.
So I think that though that did stand out to me. It was like, again, you were honest about like, hey, I'm green, even though I'm technically in the industry. Like, I know I'm green, and I would just love a shot at the title. Just give me a shot at the title, coach. I'll show up to practice every day. I'll give you a good hustle. And then we had a shoot come up at a couple months later, and I think you reached out to me one more time, and you were like, hey, some stuff's opened up for me, and anytime, I'm even down to come out for free. I think you said.
I was
I'll
work for free.
I literally will come for free. I will literally pay you. Yeah. And that's how we started our school. And Haskell's still paying us to this day. He's in his third year. His internship. He's his third year internship.
That was
paying us.
That was the message that did it, because you were like, okay, we got a shoot coming up.
Yeah. And then, I did have you out as a PA, and what was that experience like, trying to like think back on it?
That was on some Super Bowl commercials, right?
That was the second one.
I got paid.
The first one was a tactical shoot.
That's right.
Yeah. So you didn't get paid for the first one. I'm right about that.
I didn't get paid for the first one.
Yeah, because I was like a city boy.
Because I guess it wasn't even budgeted.
Yes.
To have a PA.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that's the reason you had me on, was because you didn't have to think about like budgeting in a PA when that wasn't supposed to be there, and invoicing. It was
having
just
to
like,
chase down your W-9.
Yeah, you could just come to set, and I probably still have the text messages. You were like, don't ask me any questions.
Did I say that?
You said, don't ask me any questions during the shoot. I will answer them after, and have good set etiquette. And I was like,
then
cool,
you're like,
done.
Google set etiquette.
Yeah. But there was like some things
to wear to set for a tactical shoot. And so I wore a button down.
A button down with an Old Navy puffer vest. No. I think though that there were some things that stood out to me. I do recall you in a non like in a I'll use the word sweet as well.
He's a sweetie as well.
Yeah, he can be. He can be a sweetie. But don't get on his bad side, or else we'll sick him on you.
Yeah.
But no, you stayed out of the way in a good way, and like as you sort of sense like set, like you would, like let people know like, hey, refreshment's gonna get anyone anything.
Yeah.
You kind of ran crafty a little bit. And then
he was a lunch lady.
Ended up, lunch lady.
He had sloppy joes.
We had to give him a hairnet too.
He's like, why don't you eat this hairnet? We're like, dude, don't ask questions. I thought I told you that in the email.
Yeah, but then you also kind of help with wardrobe a touch, maybe not. Like even just like
because it was a 2-day shoot.
2-day shoot.
I think it's just more like, I don't know if you told me this or if I just instinctually did it, but it was kind of just like
you leaned over my shoulder and started telling me with a shot.
It's easier, like instead of just continually asking people like, how can I be helpful? Just like go find ways to be helpful.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the time to like think how I can be helpful. So I just tried to become helpful regardless without being annoying. Like the third time someone's been like, I don't want a water bottle. Like they don't want one.
Yeah.
So like stop asking. But making sure that they're out and ready for everybody or
Yeah. I think that's important too. Like you sort of you didn't wait for a solution to be given to you. Like you were like, what can I identify here that I can solve, that I can have a hand in? And it was great. And then you did like, ask questions after. And I think that next shoot we did have a Super Bowl commercial, and I was like, I can get you on with a day rate. And then same thing for that one. That was a 3-day shoot.
Proactive, thinking for himself. Like I know I get in trouble like when I ask my wife, hey, what can I help you with? And she's like, look around, and I'm like, yeah, got it.
Yeah,
and then I'm on it, right? But
I mean,
Haskell,
just
very proactive.
What if I was, putting myself in anybody's shoes? Like, what would I want to be done that they might not be able to think about currently?
Yeah.
The cleanest example of that I can think of is the Super Bowl spots. That was that second shoot, and we were outside, and the talent were coming from an airport into their car, and it was kind of cold outside. And anytime we say cut or reset, it ends up being like a few minutes before the next take. So they would come outside and then stand outside. And so it was like, they look like annoyed. And anybody who's annoyed on set is like, you don't want them to be annoyed for too long. The least amount of annoyed people, the better. So
I do remember that. And
I would just throw jackets on them.
But
no one like told me to do that.
Well, it's kind of like
the byproduct of that was talent. We were getting better performances out of talent because a PA thought to keep these people warm in between shots, even though our intention was like, we're going to keep one after the other after the other. But then we have to talk it over for a second, or somebody else chimes in, or what about this? And that's a discussion. And then before we know it, it's 3, 4, 5 minutes.
Hopefully I got you holding a movie while we're discussing everything.
I'm sweating. But I mean, the point of that is like a simple PA thinking for themselves, being proactive now allows us to get better performances out of our talent, cutting down on the amount of time it takes for us to get one in the bag, like as our safety, as our print, like, so.
Well, it's a classic, like, man, somebody should really get them jackets.
Hello, somebody.
So, and then Haskell rose to that occasion. So and then I would say that sort of transition where it's like, okay, cool. And then I was like, thinking in my head, I'm like, and you edit, and it like asked you and talked to you and sort of crafted at that point, this is sort of post-COVID. Well, not post-COVID. We were still very much in a COVID world, but like post lockdown, like, are we going to survive? Are we not? And so at that point it was just me and you. And I was like, okay, I think like if I'll throw this out to Haskell, if he wants sort of like in like a 3-month trial internship, like we can pay you a little bit, minimize our risk on that. And we can teach you what we know and see where it goes. And we just sort of like threw you to the wolves on a lot of different stuff from there on this project. It was like, all right, cool. You're a sound guy.
I think too, like I said, I in my career had risen up ranks feeling like, oh, I'm a fraud, like they're gonna find out. But I was honest with you from the beginning.
you were.
Like, where I was like, I don't know a ton. So anything that you guys were like, hey, do you copyright? And I was like,
that's another.
That was a huge one.
I was like, I'll try.
Yeah.
And I like told myself at the beginning of that, like, if they ask you to do anything, they know you don't know anything. So
what's the worst that could happen?
What's the worst that can happen? Just say yes, I'll try.
Yeah,
because you're trying a bunch of different stuff.
Well, we've seen both. We've seen that, which is like, hey, I'm just gonna be honest, and then we've seen I'm a DP or I'm a director and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And like a big game is talked, and then we're like, okay, cool. Like, send us your reel. We'd love to, see. And then we get, the work, and we're like, there's some work that probably needs to be done here before we feel comfortable bringing that on. So there's two different approaches to it. There's the humble, honest, like, I'm still learning, and you under promise, over deliver. And then there's the opposite that we've seen quite a bit.
Yeah. But I think through those 3 months, like we definitely threw like everything and anything at you. From
wrenches.
Copy, mostly wrenches that we were throwing at you. And you're like, guys, stop. We're like, hey, your reflexes are only going to get better.
Dodge a wrench.
Yeah, you can dodge a wrench. But I think what are some of those things that like, because I also don't want to downplay, like you did go to film school. You did have a job in the industry, so it's not like you were completely like, like off the streets, like, and then we just tossed you a football and you're like, I'm like, he can throw a perfect spiral. But talk to us about like what that 3-month period sort of looked like, when you were like working with us sort of as like a intern / trial period before you were actually full time.
Because at that point I was, I almost became a firefighter. I was like in the application process because I was like, maybe this video thing isn't for me, because I never really found my thing.
Right.
So that's like another reason why this opportunity was great, because I was like, I don't know, maybe I am a sound guy. I don't know. I'm not.
Newsflash.
I'm not a first AC. I know that. I can't pull focus very well.
But I think it is important.
But
though.
I tried it. Like I was like, I'm gonna try all of the flavors and see which is. I thought I wanted to be a director, but I was like, maybe I don't actually know what a real director has to go through. So maybe I don't.
Yeah.
But you're a killer art director, killer copywriter,
right?
Really good editor now.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things that I think that you found your thing in multiple areas.
Yeah. And again, we just took the chance too from our standpoint, and like gave you those opportunities to flex or grow those muscles. I feel like, and that's I think is definitely like a good story or a good I don't know.
But it's I knew my goal was, I knew I wanted to be a full-time employed. I knew I wanted to be at a production company and that'd be my day-to-day and work on different projects.
Yeah.
I just, freelancers, I would, that kind of getting a job, and then if you don't have the next one lined up, that didn't really appeal to me. So I knew I wanted to be as good as many things as possible. So that way I could, secure employment and be valuable to a small company. Because if I was really good at one thing, then I wouldn't be very useful to you guys in downtimes. When
that all kind of start out with you, we'll kind of get into the networking side of it and why that's important. But you starting out by hitting us up not once, but multiple times. And, kind of leads into like the networking aspect of it.
Staying on people's radar is really important, because there's a lot of people too where I'm like, oh man, I forgot that person, and they like reach out again. And, I can think of a lot of people, over the years who have just sort of stayed and pulsed on the radar. And it's like, you might not have something, for a year and a half, 2 years, but, if you stay top of mind, that's crucial. Because I like legitimately, we only had one interaction, so it's like I can't view it through the lens of who I know Haskell to be now. But like he wasn't at the top of my mind. I had one meeting with him one time. You know, I wasn't thinking like, I got to find that guy to bring him on as a PA. So it's like that email that he sent was the thing that, you know.
It also wasn't like you met me and I was like, hey, dude, I'm a PA. Anytime you have PA stuff, I'm your PA guy.
Yeah.
It was, you know, I'll do anything and then hopefully vibe enough that when stuff comes around that I actually want to do, I'll get that opportunity.
And I would say like that's also a big point of discussion. Not controversy, that's the wrong one, but working for free, right? So starting out, we certainly did a lot of projects for free or heavily discounted rates, you know, and we still do that stuff even from time to time, you know? And so I think not being above being like kind of the route that Matt went, which is like, hey, like I'll come on as a PA for free, you know? Yeah. And for us, that was the door that we were like, okay, zero risk other than maybe we have to kick him off set because he's so awkward. And
maybe we get another Smokey Dan situation.
Yeah, let's talk about Smokey Dan and set etiquette. We had a Virginia Beach commercial, tourism commercial, and I think we needed a PA. Yeah, and I don't even know where.
Yeah, I don't know how we found him either. But yeah, Smokey Dan was a little bit like at first it was like cool.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden it left turned and over familiarity took over and we were like hanging out in Smokey Dan's living room, at least from Smokey Dan's perspective. And he just starts, you know, pulling out. We got kids on set.
He's ripping cigs,
dropping F-bombs.
Yeah,
so Smokey Dan, F-bomb Dan.
F-bomb Dan.
Yeah.
And then it went to Smokey Dan. I think he originally... His OG name was
F-bomb Dan.
F-bomb Dan.
Yeah, and we did. We had to talk to him too and be like, "Hey, you can't do this."
We actually made Sam talk to him. I think
we did. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. I think you're right. He would appreciate that story because I think he was also nervous to confront him, and he just kept being like, he kept just kind of like being like, "He can't do that though." Like he can't be doing what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Like
no, he's got to, Sam, and you're the producer, Sam. You got to say something.
But he's got to know that, right?
Yeah, someone's got to let him know that.
Yeah. So, that was Smokey Dan, R.I.P. I was his first and last flagship, and that's I think when we were like, all right, we're gonna make sure that we know who we're working with.
Can't have any more F-bomb Dans.
Yeah, I don't think we've had a freelancer since then. Maybe on the PA side of like over familiar with us, but again, we can figure that out. Or I just stick Haskell on him now at this point. Like, hey,
dude, I'll go for it.
Hey, can you make sure this person's not in my ear as much as they are?
I almost did that on that second shoot you guys had me on with the Penny Whistle Boys.
Yeah, dude, the Penny Whistle Boys.
Some neighborhood kids that were running amok.
What are you guys filming? What are you filming?
Yeah.
What movie?
Yeah, but set etiquette, you know, you want to make sure if you're going to rip a cig, no harm, no foul, just not near client, do it on a break, away from everybody else. If you're going to, you know, drop F-bombs, just make sure there's not children around.
Yeah. Maybe just don't bring it back on the F-bombs.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be a New Year's resolution for you.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Tone them back a touch.
Yeah. But yeah, and then I think too, just again, and you know, I don't even know if this will make it in or if this will get clipped out, but I just think us understanding as well, like I don't know if we've harped on, but like me and Matt both know where our strengths are and where they aren't, and when we need to bring people in and when we need an extension of ourselves or when we're overextended. And you know, just understanding and knowing from, you know, a production company standpoint that, you know, it's incredibly important to have a healthy network of people that you can rely on so that you can always be saying yes to the jobs that come your way. And we've certainly had that happen where a lot of jobs come and we want to say yes to all of them. And, you know, we've either had to figure out how to make it happen or choose. And
but I would say also from a production company, talking about Flagship now, and even as of more recently, like we have brands or clients or even other production companies reach out to us because of our network, and they trust us. Hey, you guys are local boots on the ground, or we know that you guys will be able to vet people, accordingly and make sure that's a successful production. And so they'll reach out for that reason only, not just because of our work or like because I'm going to be the DP or you're going to direct the project. Like it could be, hey, we know you guys are going to match us up with the right director and the right team and oversee that to make sure that this is a successful project. And so we've certainly had those types of things come along as well,
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool. Yeah, freelancers, guns for hire, why they're important to our business. And if you are and do fall in that category, whether you're, pursuing a role, a specific role, like I want to be a first, I want to be a DP, I want to be a director, or whether, you're more in Haskell's shoes where you wanted to be in an established company. I think sort of like the gateway to do that is be on set and don't be a weirdo, and you're golden.
Yeah.
Just be sweet. Just be sweet. Exactly. You want someone to be saying how sweet you are. Yeah. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you watched, check us out every other Wednesday. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment if you want some content or need some questions answered. We're happy to do so. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Flagship Visuals Podcast. We will catch you next time.